Hi, Rachel.
Howdy.
Hi, Dawn.
Come on.
Yep, you're on.
There we go. I can hear you now. How's Florida?
Great. It was raining really hard, like just this morning early, but it's cleared up and it looks like it's going to be a sunny day. We thought it was going to be a washout today, but looks like we're going to steal one.
Good.
So
I hope you have plenty of sun. I know
I
it's
probably do.
forecast is gloomy, but
What's
you'll
that?
still have fun. I said forecast is gloomy, but you'll still have fun.
That's right.
You're with a good bunch.
That's right. Yeah, we're already having a big time.
Yeah.
I'll show you all the. We got a view between a couple houses instead of. We're not right on the water this time, but we're not far at all. I mean, it's just not a bad walk at all out there to it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually prefer that.
Do you?
Not being right on the beach. Yeah.
Oh, we like it. We don't. I mean, we're good with right on there if we can be there. We just this year we didn't get a house early enough to get right on the beach or whatever.
Mm-hmm. When we went to Myrtle Beach, we stayed at a place that was across the road from the beach, but there was like a little bridge walkway that you walked right over. It didn't take but a minute to get there.
Yeah.
And you shook most of the sand off by the time you got back.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
hate the sand.
Well, you dry off and then the sand falls off, so that works out good.
Yeah.
How is the weather there?
Hot
Beautiful.
and humid.
Yeah. What I
I
heard
ran
somebody
this
say.
morning and it was 84% humidity.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
muggy here right now, but there's still a good breeze blowing. So.
I was completely soaking wet when I finished my run this morning. So.
Me too.
Did you and David go for a run?
You
Yeah.
run to the bathroom.
I do my physical therapy. I count that as a run.
There you go. How's your knee?
Doing good. Walking without any help now, so that's good.
That's good. You hadn't tried to go through a metal detector anywhere yet, I guess.
No, but they've warned me about that.
Really?
That'll be.
Yeah. So. Where is everybody this morning?
I don't know. I wondered that. I wondered if the Baxters, I don't know where they are. Usually they'll jump on there.
Yeah. Connie's probably delivering food for shut-ins today.
Yeah, I'd say you're right. Lindsay's she's getting in the shower, I think, instead of coming to Sunday school. Sam's out here with me though. So.
Hey, Sam.
And then there's Joe Mowdy showing up.
Hello.
Hello, Joe.
How you doing?
Good. How about you?
Pretty good.
TJ, I'm here for just a little while this morning. I have to leave at 10:15.
Okay.
This is Sarah Marie.
Hello.
The other Sarah. Hi.
Is it hot down there?
No, the wind's blowing this morning. It feels good. It feels really good. I mean, it's going to be warm, I'm sure. The tide is up big time from that storm. So I figure we'll have a day or two of red flags, but probably be okay.
You've been red flagged.
Yeah, where you got to have stay out of the water. Hi, Monica.
Hey, I look great. Ugh.
I love how you called in from different places.
Yeah.
So I was in the living room working out to get my workout done before Sunday school,
Mhm.
and we did the echo. And I have to leave to host the watch party at 10.
Okay.
Well, I feel like I have to do that, so I don't know that I have to, but
I think the kids are probably going to skip children's church and just get in the pool or go to the beach or something. So.
well, they can always watch it later. Like you can put it on for them before they go to bed.
Yeah, I thought about that too tonight.
That's the beauty of this. I mean, just Show it to him later. It might be a good bedtime.
Might have to do that for school too, or for church, I mean. So,
Quit.
all right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started.
Okay.
What'd you say?
I was asking Rachel if she'd done one of Lindsay's workouts. I thought we were still killing time.
No, I ran this morning in 84% humidity.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
All right, this is the last week of this study, and it's this week's title is God Can Use This for Good. And get to finally hear the end of Joseph's story that we already know, but still kind of neat. So, all right, here's the intro. It is a winning formula used in more movies, TV shows, and books than you could track. The bad guy commits a crime, and we all know he is guilty. The good guy goes after him, chases him down, and corners him. This can take up most of a movie or chapters of a book. Then, in a flurry of bullets, an epic sword fight, an intricate court battle, or some other face-to-face confrontation, the bad guy goes down, and there is vindication at last. The judgment is swift, and the audience or reader drinks in the satisfaction of seeing the bad guy get what he deserves. If the Bible followed this formula, then Joseph's response to his brothers would be very severe. They had abused him, abandoned him, sold him like a side of beef, and turned their backs on him when he cried out for mercy. But now Joseph is the prince of Egypt, in a place of power, and his brothers are weak and bowed down before him. Imagine the ending to this script using the popular good guy versus bad guy motive. Brothers, bowing down, whimpering, and begging for mercy. We are starving, and our family is back in Canaan is in need. Please help us. Joseph, I don't believe you. You are spies. Guards, surround them. Reuben, the oldest brother. Your Highness, trust me. We are brothers, sons of the same father. Our youngest brother is still at home, and one dear brother died many years ago. Please believe me. Trust us. Joseph, one of your brothers is dead. Really? Dead or betrayed? Tell me how your brother died. And then it says the sons of Jacob are bowed down, and the camera pans their guilty faces pressed against the marble floor of Pharaoh's palace. And then Joseph says, your brother is dead. Are you sure? You're about to wish he were. I am Joseph. I am the one you abused, rejected, and sold as a slave. The last thing I did over 2 decades ago, as you sold me for 20 shekels of silver, was beg for mercy. Don't one of you dare ask for mercy now. There will be none. And then the soldiers surround him and slowly lift their swords, and the screen goes black. Seems like the ending to so many books and movies, doesn't it? But Joseph's ending is different, and so is ours, if we know Jesus. The biblical story turns the things upside down and surprises us. In God's story, vengeance is replaced with grace. Death is overcome by life. Judgment is swept aside so that forgiveness can win the day. If we listen to the biblical story, we find that the ending can be radically different. So the little first intro question is, tell about a favorite movie that follows the storyline of the bad guys getting what they deserve.
Home Alone.
Who?
Home Alone.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That's a good one.
It's the only one I can think of at the moment.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, if you could use James Bond for sure. Yeah, the bad guy always ends up, you always want to see that. Like, you always want to see, somebody cuts you off in traffic, you want to see them get pulled over or something. You want to see that the bad guy get what they deserve. So
I got a good one.
Okay.
Fried green tomatoes.
I remember watching that. I remember seeing I know the movie you're talking about. I don't think I ever watched it though.
There's a guy in it that's trying to catch this one girl, and he ends up getting killed, and then the cook of this restaurant puts him in. I mean, the assumption might be they cooked him, but you don't know. But at the end of the day, the pigs eat everything, including the bones, is the big line from the movie. And
Yeah.
another one would be in The Help, when she makes the poop pie for the woman who was so hateful to The Help.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not always like getting arrested or getting sent to jail. Sometimes it's a little bit of revenge.
So it's just a popular theme. I mean, that's the theme we always want to hear, it seems like. So, well, let's watch the video and see what Max has to say. I hope our internet connection is strong enough. I'm actually connected through my hotspot on my phone, but hopefully it'll be all right. So here we go.
Well, you've never seen a scene like this before. The basketball player stands at the free throw line. Just a few seconds left on the game clock. The score is tied. The fans are quiet. The cheerleaders gulp. He bounces the basketball and he prepares to shoot. You've never seen a scene like this before. How do I know? Well, because the player has never seen a scene like this before. He's blind. Matt Stevens can't see a thing. Everybody else on his team is sighted. Everybody on the other team is sighted. So how is it that a coach placed a blind player on the free throw line? Well, the coach is his big brother. Joe, Matt's older brother, has always had enough vision for the two of them. He actually helped his younger brother ride a bike, ice skate, all the things that no one thought Matt could do. Matt did because of Joe. And when Joe became a coach of a high school basketball team, he took Matt along as his equipment manager. Now, Matt never practices with the team. He doesn't play in a game. But after each practice, he and his older brother, the coach, stay and shoot free throws. Joe stands beneath the basket, and with a cane, he taps the metal rim. And Matt listens, and then Matt shoots. And so it is that Coach Joe came up with this plan. He pitched it to his team, to the other team, to the referees, that for this non-conference game only, his younger brother would be the designated free throw shooter. Everyone thought it was a great idea, but no one had any idea that the game would come down to one shot. So far in the game, Matt is 0 for 6. He hasn't made one. Everyone is quiet. Matt stands at the free throw line. Coach Joe stands beneath the basket. He taps the metal rim. Matt takes the ball and he shoots and he makes it. Well, the crowd goes crazy. But everybody has to settle back down because he's going to shoot again. And the scene never seen before repeats itself. And he makes the second one. A player from the opposing team grabs the ball and he launches a Hail Mary toward the other basket, but misses. The crowd goes crazy. And Matt is left standing there at the free throw line. He can't find his way back to the bench. Well, guess who comes to help him? His big brother, Joe. All the beauty of a big brother. Big brother will help you get through things. Big brother help you get through a test. A big brother has some lunch money. A big brother will get you down the block. Everybody needs a big brother. Maybe you're not trying to make a basket, but maybe you are trying to make sense out of life or make it through a tough time. And maybe you're in a stretch of life where you sure could use a big brother. Well, I'm glad to tell you, you have one. And you may be surprised to learn his name. Wouldn't it be great just to have a big brother? As somebody to help us get through the tough times of life. Maybe you're trying to make it through a tough day, make a salary or make a difference. You just need somebody to come in and give you some strength. We're going to talk today about how that big brother is a part of your life. And you're going to find out that what the brothers of Joseph discovered, you can discover as well. And that is the prince is your brother. But before we look at that story, let's make sure that we've given our declaration one final shot. Thanks for being a part of this study over the last 6 sessions. And let's remember that God is the one who's going to help us through this. And let's remember this survival creed. One final time, fill your lungs with air and your hearts with hope. And let's say it like we mean it, shall we? I'll get through this. It won't be painless. It won't be quick. But God will use this mess for good. In the meantime, don't be foolish or naive. But don't despair either. With God's help, I will get through this. The brothers of Joseph needed somebody to help them get through this. Where we find them in this particular message, oh, they could not have looked more pitiful. They are exhausted. They are discouraged. They are confused. And they are standing before the prince of Egypt, accused of stealing, far from home, confused, hungry, poverty-stricken. I mean, they could not appear more pitiful. And so here they are. Here they are. They think the end is near. My guess is they think they're going to go back into prison. They're thinking that the prince of Egypt is going to have his way with them and do away with them forever. Oh boy, are they in for a surprise. In one of the most dramatic chapters in the Bible, we read what Joseph did. It's in Genesis 45. Genesis 45, verse 1 prepares us for what is about to come. I love just this first phrase. Genesis 45 and verse 1. Then Joseph could not restrain himself. I just see him burying his face in his hands, and he begins to heave with emotion. He doesn't just whimper, he doesn't just weep, but this 20 years of emotion that's been bottled up, it just comes spilling out. 20 years of trickery, 20 years of pain, it finally comes to an end, and it spills out right there on the marble floor. Anger and love had dueled it out, and it looks like love is going to win. He broke the news. Verse 3, he tells them, I am Joseph. And look at his first question. Does my father still live? Now, again, it's my imagination, but I've got these brothers in a genuine genuflect. They're down on the floor. Their face is right down on the floor. And they don't see him, but they hear this weeping going on, and they don't dare lift their heads. They don't know what to think. And then they hear him say, I am Joseph. Now, the last time they saw Joseph, he was a scrawny, spindly, teenage boy being pulled out of a pit and sold into slavery. They've assumed that Joseph is dead all these years. The last time they saw Joseph, he was in trouble. And now Joseph is the prince. I just imagine them looking, casting glances one to the other, maybe mouthing the words, Joseph, Joseph. It couldn't be. Joseph. They lift their heads ever so slightly, ever so carefully, hesitantly. And they look up and they see Joseph lower his hands, and that makeup that the Egyptian pharaohs and princes would wear, smeared from tears, and his voice shakes as he gives this invitation in verse 4. He says, please come near to me. Please come near to me. And the brothers stand up and they begin inching in the direction of Joseph. What a tender moment this is. In the next few verses, Joseph basically says, God sent me here. God did this. This was all God's idea. God is actually protecting you. There's more to this story than meets the eye. Look how He takes care of their fear. They haven't apologized. They haven't asked any questions, but He knows what they're feeling, and He reaches out to them, and He begins to deal with some of the fear that they're going to have. And then He says, go get your families. Bring everybody here. I'm going to protect you all. I'm going to take care of you. He fell on his brother Benjamin's neck and wept. And then later he kissed all his brothers and he wept over them. After that, the brothers talked with him. Again, what a moment. One by one, he wept over them. You know what? He didn't exclude a single one of them. He didn't exclude Judah, the one who came up with the slave trafficking idea. He didn't exclude Reuben, the one who was the firstborn but didn't behave like a big brother. He didn't skip one up. He didn't even say, weren't you the one who tied my hands that day? Weren't you the one who shoved me down in the pit? He just covers this moment with mercy. He embraced each one of them, and then he talked with them. He didn't talk over them. He didn't talk at them. He talked with them. Hey, Reuben, did you ever marry that girl from down the street? Judah, you got a little chubby since I've seen you. They have these moments of conversation. It's the family coming back together. And then Pharaoh hears about this. And Pharaoh basically says, Joseph, any family of yours is a family of mine. I'm going to give them a place to stay. Go ahead, tell the family to come. And so he sends for the family. And the reconciliation takes another step. About this time, it dawns on the brothers, we're out of danger. There's a famine still raging. The fields are still bare. But you know what? We're going to be okay. Why? Because the prince is our brother. Circumstances are still the same, but their confidence increases because they've discovered that the person who sits on the throne is actually their big brother. Oh, for such a gift. You know what? We know what it's like to face a famine. Maybe, if not a famine in the field, at least a famine at work or a famine at school. We've gone through tough times. We know what it's like to run out of resources and supplies. We've stood where the brothers stood, and we've done what the brothers have done. We've gone to the throne. We've gone to the sovereign. We've gone to the prince. We've asked for mercy. We've asked for help. We've done what the brothers have done. We felt what the brothers have felt. And you know what? We've discovered what the brothers discovered. They discovered that the person in charge was actually their big brother. You know where I'm going with this, don't you? Do you know that the one in charge is your big brother? This may be new language. You're used to hearing Jesus described as king. You're used to hearing Jesus described as Redeemer. You're used to hearing Jesus described as Savior. But it is a biblical term for you to call Jesus your brother, because He calls you His family. You see, the picture of Joseph and his brothers is really the picture of Jesus and his family. In fact, there are so many similarities between Joseph and Jesus that I would contend that Joseph is just the warm-up act for the story of Jesus, just the appetizer that prepares us for really the main course of the Bible, and that is the story of Jesus. Have you ever noticed all the similarities between the story of Joseph and the story of Jesus? Here's a short list. Joseph was the favorite son of Jacob. Jesus is the beloved Son of God. Joseph fed the nations. Jesus fed the multitudes. Joseph prepared people for a famine. Jesus came to prepare us for the kingdom. Under Joseph's administration, the grain increased. In Jesus' hands, water became wine and a basket of bread became a buffet. Joseph responded to a crisis of nature. Jesus responded to one crisis after another. Joseph was in command. Jesus was in command. He told typhoons to settle down and waves to be quiet. He commanded cadavers to stand up and the crippled to dance a jig and the mute to sing an anthem. And people hated Joseph. And guess what? People hated Jesus. Joseph was sold for 20 pieces of silver, Jesus for 30. Joseph was falsely accused and thrown into a prison. Jesus was condemned for no cause and nailed to a cross. And you know, the brothers thought they had seen the last of Joseph. And the accusers thought they had seen the last of Jesus. But you know what? While the killers of Jesus slept and the followers wept, Jesus stood up right there on the slab of death. He unwrapped his burial clothes and he stepped out into the Easter morning sunrise. Listen to this verse from Ephesians chapter 1 and verse 20. God raised him from death and set him on a throne in the deep heaven, in charge of running the universe, everything from galaxies to governments. No name and no power exempt from his rule, and not just for the time being, but forever. He is in charge of it all. He has the final word on everything. We've already established how Joseph was put over the entire nation of the most powerful nation on the face of the earth at that time. Jesus, how much more, has been put over all nations, and not just for that time, but for all of time. You see, Jesus is our Joseph. Jesus is our Joseph. And here's where the similarities end. Joseph's reign over Egypt came to a conclusion, but Jesus' reign over the universe will never end. His throne will never be vacant. There came a time in which Joseph died and his body was carried back to his homeland where he was buried. But Jesus' reign will never stop. He has risen from the dead, and he will forever oversee this universe that he has created. And so we look now to the prince, and we find out, oh, the prince is our big brother. The prince is family. Yes, the famine rages. Yes, the challenges are many. But guess what? We have a prince, and we have a brother, and it's the same person. And you know what? The things that Joseph did for his brothers, your prince does for you. Think about it. Think about it. Remember how Joseph wept at the sight of his brothers? Your prince weeps at the sight of you, not out of shame, but out of joy. He loves you that much. He is thrilled when you come into his presence. He welcomes you to his throne room. He weeps with joy at the sight of you. And you know what? Just like Joseph called for his brothers, well, your prince calls for you. Jesus said, come to me, all of you who are weary and heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. Come to me, he says, come to me. Just like Joseph said to his brothers, come near, come near. So Jesus right now is urging you, he's urging me, wherever we are in life, let's just draw near to our King. He weeps for us. He calls for us. And just like Joseph provided for his brothers, so our prince provides for us. He provides for us. The Bible says that in Jesus we have an advocate with the Father, Jesus Christ the righteous. Who is an advocate? An advocate is somebody who speaks up on our behalf. Joseph spoke up on behalf of his brothers, right? And they were cared for. Jesus speaks up on our behalf, and we are cared for. Our brother Jesus promises to supply all your needs according to his riches. Philippians 4:19. You know, life turns everybody upside down at some point. I don't think any of us escape being taken down to Egypt. I think all of us pass through a tough time, a tough chapter. It may be long, it may be short. It may be short and seem like it's for long. But all of us face it. The woman who discovers her husband having the affair, down to Egypt. The businessman whose investments are embezzled, down to Egypt. The teenager who discovers that a night of romance results in a surprise pregnancy, down to Egypt. The pastor who finds his faith shaken by questions of suffering and fear, down to Egypt. We all, at some point in our life, get taken down to Egypt. We'd be foolish to think that we are invulnerable, but listen, we'd be just as foolish to think that evil always wins the day. The Bible vibrates with this steady drumbeat of faith, and that is, what others intend for evil, God uses for good. This was the conviction that sustained Joseph. Some years later, when the brothers of Joseph thought the prince was going to throw them into the pit, they came asking for mercy. You see, Jacob passed away, and they thought, with Dad gone, now Joseph is going to come after us. But Joseph reassured them. He said, no, no, no. What you meant or what you intended as evil, God used for good. See, he put God right in the middle of his story. You intended evil, but God meant it for good. I think that's the big story here. Keep God in the center of your story. Is evil going to come? Absolutely. But can evil become good? Absolutely. As long as we keep God right in the middle. As long as we keep God in the center of the story. My friend, you're going to get through this. You are. Will it be painless? Will it be quick? Not necessarily. But God will use this mess for something good. In the meantime, don't be foolish. Don't be naive. But don't despair either. You have a good God. And God will take this tragedy and turn it into a triumph. And with His help, you will get through this. After all, the prince is your brother.
Closing line. The prince is your brother. How cool is that? So tell a personal story about a big brother or big sister or someone who functioned as such in your life, who cared for you and was there for you during a tough time. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
I've had a lot of good friends who've known me for life who come on board whenever something happens. It's wonderful to have that.
We've all had those
We all
people.
have that.
I do have a big sister, and she was almost like a second mom to me because she's so much older than me. So you can tell her I said that if you want to. But she is a lot older than me. I mean, she was 14 when I was born, she turned 14 in October after I was born in June. But she's still always been there for me, and I think we've been there for each other. So it's been good. And then Drew has always been that person for me. Like, I think God knew when to put him in my life, and to he's always been that image of Love Does. I think about Bob Goff and Love Does, and I think about the times that he has came to wherever I was in my time of need, and so he's always been there and been that person for me.
Funny story. My person that sticks out the most is Joe's dad. Joe came along at a tough time, but his dad was the one that affirmed me in the direction I was headed. I'd been in a marriage which kind of made me feel like I wasn't valued and I couldn't do stuff and stuff like that. And Joe's dad came along and cheered me on and affirmed me and built me up and made me feel like I could do anything. And that might be why I married Joe. I'm not real sure. It was kind of like a way to stay connected to his dad.
Dad had the assist.
What'd you say?
I said Dad had the assist.
Yeah, his dad had the assist. He was his wingman. It was great.
Pretty cool. So I didn't have Post-it notes with me, so it'll take me a minute to get to the scriptures today. I usually try to get those marked so I don't spend a bunch of time flipping around. But I'm gonna read Genesis 45. If the window blow me away. Genesis 45, 1 through 15. Joseph could stand it no longer. Out, all of you, he cried out to his attendants. He wanted to be alone with his brothers when he told them who he was. Then he broke down and wept aloud. His sobs could be heard throughout the palace, and the news was quickly carried to Pharaoh's palace. I am Joseph, he said to his brothers. Is my father still alive? But his brothers were speechless. They were stunned to realize that Joseph was standing there in front of them. Come over here, he said. So they came closer, and he said again, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. But don't be angry with yourselves that you did this to me, for God did it. He sent me here ahead of you to preserve your lives. These 2 years of famine will grow to 7, during which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. God has sent me here to keep you and your families alive so that you will become a great nation. Yes, it was God who sent me here, not you. And he has made me a counselor to Pharaoh, manager of his entire household and ruler over all Egypt. Hurry, return to my father and tell him, this is what your son Joseph says. God has made me master over all the land of Egypt. Come down to me right away. You will live in the land of Goshen so that you can be near me with all your children and grandchildren, your flocks and herds and all that you have. I will take care of you here, for there are still 5 years of famine ahead of us. Otherwise, you and your household will come to utter poverty. Then Joseph said, you can see for yourselves, and so can my brother Benjamin, that I really am Joseph. Tell my father that I am honored here in Egypt. Tell him about everything you have seen, and bring him to me quickly. Weeping with joy, he embraced Benjamin, and Benjamin also began to weep. Then Joseph kissed each of his brothers and wept over them, and then they began talking freely with him. What do you learn about Joseph's view of God from the way he responded to his brothers? I just think he was like the image of grace.
Did you say, what do we learn from God, or what do we learn from Joseph?
What do we learn about Joseph's view of God from the way he responded to his brothers?
Well, I think Joseph saw that God had given him so much grace through everything he had been through that it changed his way of treating his family. I mean, if you go back in the story, Joseph wasn't always filled with grace. That's kind of what landed him in the hole. You know, he was the favored, and he kind of waved that in his brother's face. And I think that when he ended up in the hole and he got a beautiful gig with the Pharaoh, he realized that God's going to give us all grace, and I need to repay that grace as well.
They put a note in the book here, and he says, God, the master weaver. He stretches the yarn and intertwines the colors, the ragged twine with the velvet strings, the pain with the pleasures. Nothing escapes his reach. Every king, despot, weather pattern, and molecule is at his command. He passes the shuttle back and forth across the generations, and as he does, a design emerges. Satan weaves, God reweaves. So it's interesting to see how he weaved that all together too with Joseph. Are you all getting a lot of wind noise from my mic or anything? Good. It's real windy out here. I just didn't want to have you listen to that. So what parallels do we see in how Joseph responded to his brothers and how Jesus responds to us? I think that was the most interesting part of this lesson for me, just to see those comparisons.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever heard that parallel like that. And, I like it a lot.
That's what I thought too. I thought the same thing. I did too. I loved it. I love that, the way he explained that and like made that connection with how just, that was really,
I'm thinking, how many times have I thrown Jesus in the well, and how many times has he gotten out of that well and redeemed my life?
And things that somebody might have done something to you that they meant for evil, but God turned around and made good out of it. I mean,
yeah.
I think about, that whole idea of, not everything will be good, but God will make it all work together for good. You are not going to win every race or not going to win every battle, but the war is already won. The war is already, we know how the war is going to end. Just the battles along the way build us to that point.
And I don't believe in everything happens for a purpose. I don't believe that mindset. But I think that God has a divine purpose and that he's going to work it eventually, maybe not in my lifetime or yours, but eventually what's happening in my life is going to go in line like he wants it.
He can
I
redeem
may
it,
choose I may choose plan A or plan B, and he's got a plan C that's going to come back to A.
Yeah, and he takes whatever that is. Like you said, I don't think that either. I don't believe in that. I've always, my whole life, I heard about everybody's got a time to go and all these things. I don't believe that like that way. But I do think that any situation, God can take that and redeem it and make something out of it. I'm going to read Matthew 12:46 through 50 and Hebrews 2:10 through 13. Listen for what the passages teach us about how Jesus sees us and how we are related to him through faith. So Matthew 12, 46 through 50. As Jesus was speaking to the crowd, his mother and brothers were outside wanting to talk with him. Someone told Jesus, "Your mother and brothers are outside, and they want to speak to you." Jesus asked, "Who is my mother? Who are my brothers?" Then he pointed to his disciples and said, "These are my mothers and brothers. Anyone who does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother, sister, and mother." And Hebrews 2, 10 through 13. And it was only right that God, who made everything and for whom everything was made, should bring his many children into glory. Through the suffering of Jesus, God made him a perfect leader, one fit to bring them into their salvation. So now Jesus and the ones he makes holy have the same Father. This is why Jesus is not ashamed to call them his brothers and sisters. For he said to God, "I will declare the wonder of your name to my brothers and sisters. I will praise you among all your people." So what do those passages tell us about how Jesus sees how we're related to him through faith? I mean, he calls us brothers and sisters, right? I mean, we're all of the same family. Once we come to faith in Christ, and that becomes who we are, then when we're a brother and sister and an heir to that same inheritance that he has received, right?
Yes.
In the video, Max talked about how the sons of Jacob came to Egypt as poor and powerless men begging for food. But everything changed when they learned that the prince was their brother. How did their lot and future shift once they realized that the prince was Joseph and that he was ready to extend forgiveness and grace? That had to feel like a get out of jail free card to me, I think. Don't y'all?
Yeah.
I think it was humbling. I think it had to be super humbling. I mean, you kind of see that in their reaction, that and maybe even a little leery, like, he's forgiving us, but when's the other shoe going to drop? Are we going to get a whammy? Because that's kind of how they would have been to him.
Yeah. Well, listen to this too. In Genesis 50, 15 through 21. I can get there. Sorry. Slow this morning. Genesis 50, 15 through 21. But now that their father was dead, Joseph's brothers became afraid. "Now Joseph will pay us back for all the evil we did to him," they said. So they sent this message to Joseph. "Before your father died, he instructed us to say to you, 'Forgive your brothers for the great evil they did to you.' So we, the servants of God, of the God of your father, beg you to forgive us." When Joseph received the message, he broke down and wept. Then his brothers came and bowed low before him. "We are your slaves," they said. But Joseph told them, "Don't be afraid of me. Am I God to judge and punish you? As far as I'm concerned, God turned into good what you meant for evil. He brought me to the high position I have today so I could save the lives of many people. No, don't be afraid. Indeed, I myself will take care of you and your families." And he spoke very kindly to them, reassuring them. How did they reveal that they still didn't understand the grace that they had received from Joseph? and I'll add this as like a question that I thought of, like, how often do we fail in receiving that grace from God? And we know it's there for the taking. How often do we fail to receive it?
I think we fail to receive it because we fail to forgive ourselves. Sometimes I will ask God's forgiveness, but I can't forgive myself for something I've done. And so, we can't see the grace that's there because we don't really feel it because we're not, letting it go.
Do any of y'all listen to there's a podcast called Unashamed. It's the Robertsons from Duck Dynasty. The bearded guys. Any of y'all listen to that?
No.
You know what I'm talking about, though. You know the Duck Dynasty people I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they do this podcast, and they're on like episode 95 or something. And I listen to it on the way to work in the mornings. But in the last like 3 months, they found out that Phil had a daughter she's like 45 years old, and they just figured out that he had this daughter, and she had done, somebody in her family had done like a 23andMe or something.
So I think this week we need to keep it.
She had done one of those like 23andMe DNA things and found out there was a gap in her DNA that she couldn't figure out where it was at. And come to find out, Phil Robertson was her daddy. And they did all the paternity tests and all that stuff. But like just that image of grace that his family shared with her, with him for that situation. And, he had always been very open about saying that there was nothing good in his life prior to Christ. Like everything about him was bad. He was the worst of the worst. Kind of like with Paul, like Paul would say, he's the chief of sinners. And he said on that podcast they had her on the show with him. And he said, "You're the only thing good that's come from my past." So just that, I thought that was the perfect image of grace for his family to welcome her in and to wrap their arms around her and embrace her like she had been there all along, and really not throw blame on him for something that happened in his pre-Christ life.
Yeah.
So the next question
there's also grace there that the grace that's also there is that God made that relationship healthy because he didn't stick around enough to make sure he knew he had a child, and that she accepted herself into that family. There's
Absolutely.
a lot of grace surrounding that.
Yeah.
And it just shows that God can take really bad choices. It's like I was telling somebody, it's so super cliche, but I was texting back and forth with somebody that had made some mistakes recently. And I said, if you will let him, God will take your messes and turn them into a message for everyone else and for yourself. The trick is I'm not a big fan of Duck Dynasty for a lot of reasons, even though they're good Christian guys. There's some other things I don't love, but I do have to say on their behalf, they share their lives, warts and all. And they don't hide the ugly. They share that. And so what that does is it gives people hope that are in the midst of ugly, that there can be good, that there can be good. If you give your life to Christ, he will take that ugly and he will make it good. And they are good about that. They are good about sharing all the ugly and all the good.
She said as much as that. She was like, she knew that she never really fit completely with her family. There was always something a little bit off about, she was always different than they were. And like to see now how God had worked through her life, and without knowing all that. Her name is Phyllis. Her mother knew that he was the dad of her and never said anything at all about it. And, but anyway, it turned into an amazing story, really. To see that. But, so.
I'm sorry. Well, I was just going to say, I've read several posts, and I don't know him personally, but I love to read the things that he posts on Facebook. And I think his name is Colby Lane. Is it the guy that?
Yeah, he's the guy
the
from the court. Yeah.
Yes. And when I read the things that he writes, I'm like, yeah, he went through a horrible thing, but God has turned that around. And what he's doing right now, he's saving lives.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
what's being done because of what he went through.
Yep.
And we see that with Kendra Preston and
Yes. Oh,
Holly
many.
Burton, and now even
Yeah.
Holly Boyce. She's moved back to town and she's working with
Oh,
people.
good.
Yeah, she's working, helping Holly Burton transport people and working with the Drug Coalition. And she's really, and these are people that all had really bad lives going on. I mean, TJ can tell you about Kendra probably more than any of us. And, but they're doing what they're taking that mess and making it a message,
Yes.
and they don't hide their thoughts and they don't hide their lives.
Right.
I just feel so encouraged too to be able to be at a point where you can watch that the redemption happen. Like you get to be a witness to that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's so cool to get to see that kind of stuff, to see that happening. So how do we act when we forget the depth and reality of God's grace given to us in Jesus Christ? How can fear, worry, and human good works start to slip into our relationship with Jesus if we forget the reality of his grace? I just thought we could start thinking that our security is up to us, that it's on us to come up with that thing, and it's on us to come up with all the answers, and that everything depends on us. And really, any security or anything like that I've ever had, it all came from God anyway, right?
Right.
I think too, when we're forgetting that God is the one who gives us grace, we start to get angry at him for the things that may be going on in our lives that we don't like.
Yeah. Max makes the bold statement, God sees a Joseph in you. Then he says, your family needs a Joseph, a courier of grace in a day of anger and revenge. How do you respond to these two statements? What do you think about being a courier of grace? That's not always like the fun thing to do. It's more in our nature to want to have the last word and to always be right and to, exact revenge,
I'll give you an example that just happened to me this week. So I shared it, but my ex-husband was touted for being really a great police officer for an interaction that he had with a Black woman, and it went well and everything of that sort. Posted on Facebook, she did, and it got shared everywhere. Well, it was really hard for me to share that. I could have just been like, that's not the one I know, that's not the person I know, but I don't know, maybe he's changed and he's not, done anything recently that I know of that would be bad. But I could have just gone on there and slammed him and slandered him. And instead I was like, yeah, that's Rustin's dad. There you go. And passed it on.
Yep.
Well, I think that Joseph grew in the office, don't you? I mean, he had a lot of opportunity himself. And he was in a position to forgive. Age sort of does that, experience. And if you've had positive things happen in your life, you tend to give others a break, perhaps. I think we can change. We can be more forgiving, particularly as you begin to sort out the important things in life, which at our age we've been trying to do.
I think you're right about that, and I think you get as you're shared. I mean, I think about all the times people share grace with me. I love that line about grace doesn't seem fair until you need a little. And it's you think about it, how freely it's been shared with me. I feel like I gotta share that in return. So. This last question, he says, what is one way we can begin to be a bearer of grace in our family, and as Joseph was in his? And how can we be praying for each other and encourage each other as we seek to bring grace and the presence of Jesus into our families? I think we all got that opportunity.
If you got children, you've got to, get a storeroom full of grace. and know how to use it.
Well, and then we all need grace in different amounts. Like I need more some days than I do others. You know, I mean, just everybody needs some sometimes. It's a lot easier if we just share that and not. It's sure not any fun to walk around holding a grudge or to carry that weight around, that extra baggage that you don't have to carry around. It's no fun. So it's a lot easier to get rid
But
of.
grace too, like, you know, especially with your children or with anybody and with his brothers. I think grace carries a lot. I mean, it's not just saying, oh, it's okay. You know, it's, I forgive you. I know what you did. You know what you did. You know what you did was wrong. And have that understanding, but I forgive you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think it's, you know, just letting somebody off scot-free. Although I think, you know, even with Jesus, with us, he didn't just say, oh, it's okay. You know, he's like, this grace had a price to it. You know, he gave his life for the grace that he gave us.
It's an opportunity then to, you know, if you get to the point where you share that grace and then people can see that you're willing to work with them. And then I think that I mean, you hope that in turn that you start to grow from that, you know, you hope that you become, that everybody grows from it, you know?
Yeah.
So I've enjoyed this study a lot. I wish there was another one. I wish there was another few weeks of it. That's the last one, but it's been good. I knew the story of Joseph before, but to go through it the way that he's done it's been really good. I don't know what we're doing next week. I'm hoping I'll get some inspiration down here on the beach, but we might just talk about current events next week or something. I don't know. We'll do something next Sunday, and I'll set up another Zoom meeting for next week. I might not send it out till later in the week. If I can find another study like this one, I might do that, or we might come up with something else. And if anybody has any ideas, shoot them my way, because I'm all ears. I hope you all have a great week. We're gonna sure try to. It's gonna be fun being out here and just eating a lot and enjoying being with each other.
I was going to say, what's Pam Petty cooking for lunch?
I don't know about lunch, but last night we had spaghetti, and then we had like fettuccine Alfredo kind of thing with shrimp and broccoli in it. Oh, it was great. Really,
Aren't
really
you at
good.
the beach?
What's that?
Aren't you at the beach?
I'm at the beach, yes.
So when is she going to start throwing the seafood into the?
Oh, they had shrimp in it last night.
Oh.
Yeah, big shrimp. So.
Oh. Better than those.
I do have to say, I was really expecting beach scenes behind you this morning. I'm a little bummed.
I could do this. Do like stand like this so y'all can see the beach over my shoulder or something. But I was just sitting at the table on the porch. Our house doesn't have as good a view as some of the houses we've stayed in the past, but it's still, you can see between the houses to the beach, and then the porch upstairs is off the master suite, and the folks that are staying in that room have got a great view. So it's really neat. So anyway, I hope you all have a great week. We'll see you next Sunday, one way or another, doing something. So Monica, will you mind praying for us as we close?
I would love to.
Okay.
And then I'm going to church.
All right, great.
Father God, thank you for this group, Lord. I'm excited to see everybody here and keep TJ and Lindsay safe, and Pam and the Flemings and all the people that are there getting a break. And Lord, let us just continue to stay united through all of these things. Lord, teach us your grace towards everyone, even when we don't agree, even when we don't see the value in another person or another group of people. Let us know that you see the value in them and give us that same grace and mercy. It's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank y'all again.
Thank you, TJ.